everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Motivate with Coach Camp. I, of course, am your host, Coach Camp, and we are back in these wonderful, amazing studios of SRP with Mr. Derek Me Show. Hey, and I have great news. So this will be our official first in-person interview here in the brand spanking new studios of SRP. I'm pretty excited about it. So let's get into today's topic and who our guest is going to be. All right, so I don't have to really sell this point to you. I think that if you are living in the world and you're out there experiencing the day-to-day struggles and strife that everybody faces in all walks of life, then you understand the importance of having somebody in your corner. And today's guest is someone that decided not just to take care of themselves, not just to take care of their own family, but to step out and help others. That is why I was just like, you know what? This story needs to be told, because right now, probably a lot of us, I would say this is fair, would say, I can't do something for everybody. I don't have enough money, or I don't have enough influence, or I don't have enough education, or whatever the thing is. The truth is, what is the most valuable thing we all have? Time. And when we choose to spend that time with someone else, and when you do it in a way of nurturing and caring and trying to be a positive influence, the benefits are boundless. It's not just for the other individual. You yourself will end up growing as well. So as y'all know, I am a part of the Hope Center. It is a mentorship program that works with youth from 4th grade up to seniors. It's not like it has to be in that. We would work with others too, but that is just our normal demographic, if you will. And today's guest is someone that has taken this role on in a very big way. She has done amazing things with the Hope Center. I want her to tell her story about how she got there, what she's been doing with it, and the people that she's been influencing along the way. So my guest today is Miss Winter Wallace. She is from here in DeSoto County. I imagine we're going to find out all these things, of course. And so at this time, please welcome with me, Miss Winter. How are you, ma'am?
Hey, I'm doing wonderful.
Thank you for coming out.
Thank you for having me today.
You know, I always talk about this on the show. This always airs, of course, weeks, sometimes even a couple months later, depending on how things fall. But today's weather, always talk about the weather.
Yeah.
We got some big stuff coming in.
Yeah.
So
sure.
We're going to try to make sure we fit this in and get you back home safe before all the bad stuff comes in here. So let's start out with this, Miss Winter. Where are you from? Where'd you grow up?
I am from Lincoln, Nebraska.
What?
Yeah,
I ran a race
Midwest.
there. That's a nice area. I like that town.
it's
Very,
quite
very
cool.
nice. It's like a college town.
Yeah.
Yeah,
real
so it's pretty cool. So how long were you there?
I pretty much grew up like there all my life. I finally moved down this way, I guess, when I was like 19, 20 years old officially.
Okay. And did you have brothers or sisters?
Yes, I'm the youngest of 8.
Oh, what?
8.
I had some, by the way, y'all, my reaction is so legit. I had no idea that was coming at me. What was that? It was a TV show called 8 is Enough. Do you remember that?
That might be before my time.
It was well before your time, young lady. It was well before your time. But it's just, wow, 8. So that had to be, where did you fit in the lineup?
I mean, I was like the baby, the spoiled bunch, you know.
Okay.
I just loved on baby sister. Yeah, we are a really loved, tight-knit family. Big age gaps, too. So I guess that kind of helps with...
So like the oldest to the youngest, what are we looking at?
My oldest brother is in his 50s, and so we're about 20-something years apart.
Wow. Yeah. It's well to have 8, it's got to be a span of time, right?
Yeah.
So growing up in a household with that many people, obviously a lot of influence. I would imagine a lot of activities.
Yes.
I could only imagine a lot of activities. So tell me a little bit about childhood growing up with such a big family.
Childhood was fun for me. My brothers, they're boys. They made sure, football, basketball, all the games that maybe girls shouldn't have played, but I enjoyed playing like flag football and stuff growing up. Activities, I guess growing up in my time, it was, I guess, safer. It was fun to be outside, chalk and hopscotch and, jump rope. All those things were really fun. So outdoors, I was an outdoor kid. Yeah. I loved playing outside and siblings. Like I said, we always did activities and fun things together. And
what kind of organization does that take to have parents to be able to keep that large of a crew in order?
My mom, she did very well. She kept everybody in line. She was, still sweet to this day, but she really helped us with discipline, making sure we had our daily routine, that we followed it to the T, and that we had, like I said, our playtime, of course, school, homework and everything, but we had a really good daily routine. You
really have to have some structure and some organization to be able to manage that and not get away from you. And I'm speaking from a point of now we have our granddaughter coming over to stay the night, and I'm like having to psych myself up because 3.5, almost 4 years old is a lot of energy. It's a lot of activities. And it's got to be like, people are like, oh, you've got energy, Coach Kent, but it's a different type of energy. You know, kids bring it. They bring the thunder sometimes. And so you got to be on top of that.
Yeah.
And then paying attention so they don't hurt themselves as well.
Right.
So when you were young and you're growing up, you obviously have older siblings and stuff. Did you start to develop or have an idea of what you wanted to do or become whenever you went into high school or you got out of high school?
I always kind of knew that I wanted to, when I was younger, I always was like more of creatives. I loved drawing. I loved anything art, music, those colors, just scenery, those things really fascinated me. So I tried to always be involved in things that helped, brew and really help my creativity growing up. And my mom made sure of that. And then with my siblings, we all had a wide set of, career choices, but I was always the oddball with the creativity. Like they were like, why do you want to be an artist? I was like, well, I like to sing, I like to draw, I like to dance. Those things were really intriguing to me, and I'm really thankful for being able to explore the creative style.
I have an interesting question, maybe only interesting to me, I don't know, but are you left-handed?
I'm ambidextrous.
Ambidextrous.
Yes.
Okay. The reason I ask that is because creative minds and artistic minds, I have kind of done a self-study, and it does seem like there are a lot of left-handed people that are creative like that, paint, draw, sculpt, what have you. So it's just a fascinating thing for me. So were any of your other brothers and sisters, were they interested in some of the same things like art and that, or were you like the one standout on that?
I had a sister. She's into art, but I don't think she did like the painting and stuff like I did. We did have in common with poetry. Like I did a lot of poetry writing, and so that was we bonded that way.
Was she younger or older than you?
Older.
Yeah. And I ask all those questions because sometimes we have influences in our life, and sometimes we take a completely different path from everyone else around us. I don't know if you're familiar with the TV show that used to come on called Alaskan Bush People, and it was the Brown family. He had like 7 kids, and every single one of those kids they were a completely different personality. And it was really kind of fascinating in the fact that none of them kind of fell in line with the other. A lot of times you see the younger siblings kind of following the same path as their older ones. Even if it's subliminally, they may say, well, I'm not going to be like them, but then they're actually, they're like them.
I feel like a lot of my older siblings, for instance, we got some medical field. We got one of my other sisters. We are in the same field as far as accounting. One owns his own business. Like we all kind of flow as far as business wise, but careers is still kind of just doing our own thing in a sense.
I ask those questions. Sometimes I need to kind of like put some dots together. So who would you attribute to being the biggest influence on you once you got out of high school or you're going into high school? You say you moved out here when you were 19. So that's a pretty fresh out of high school move. That's not too far removed. So what were some of the things, or who was it that was influencing what your next decisions would be? I
had a coach growing up as well that made. I had many counselors. I had my 6th grade counselor who became we became close, and she then became a mentor in a sense. And then when I was in high school, I had a life coach, and she just kind of took on. Was this a school counselor? Now, my 6th grade, yes. And then out when I became in high school, no, it was outside, but became just close in general. And she always would just let me express. They all did, let me express myself. Even my mom and those influences around me allowed me to express myself. I wanted to always just kind of explore. Like I said, that creativeness, I wanted to explore, see what was out there. Because if I don't go, then I'll never know. I'm always going to be stuck on my phone, on the computer, just looking at it and not seeing it for myself. Yeah. So that was one thing that they always instilled into me. Just, go for it. Because if it doesn't work, you have a home. You can always come back. So that's always been just the back of my, head. Just go for it. Like you got to go.
That's a great message. I hope that my listeners actually pick up on that idea. And the thought is if you have an interest in something and you never pursue it, you'll always wonder. But if you pursue it and it fails, or you pursue it and you don't like it, you can hit reset, back up, go another direction. But it's better to know and better to try than to always wonder, in my opinion. Right. And I've done that myself. And so that's a very relatable comment, I think, to a lot of people. Either they are on the fence about doing something because their fear of failure supersedes their desire for adventure.
Right.
Or the other side of it is maybe they are trying too many things and they never center on anything. So there's a balance, obviously, in there. You have to have some balance. But I think there's so much to be gained by trying something you have a genuine interest in and finding out that it's really not for you, than to always think to yourself, I wonder how things would have worked out if I would have tried this or that. I'll be honest with you. Not that I tell a lot of lies in here, but I'm just going to be transparent. I don't know that I would have ever thought about being behind a microphone and doing podcasts and being a public voice of any kind had it not been for my students. So it was not something I thought about. My students are the ones that where I teach in college. They were the ones that influenced me to try doing public speaking and stuff. Absolutely. And one thing led to the next. Now, I'm not saying that I'm great at it, but I am saying I've had a lot of impactful people come through here. Them sharing their stories have impacted, I would say, thousands and thousands of people that have reached out and said, hey, look, this message from this person, this message, and how I would have never known. Right. And then all the ones that don't reach out, how many of those people are actually is it hitting home with? So realizing that you had a sense of adventure and a willingness to go for it, if you will. What brought you down this way at 19? Because that's a big move from Nebraska.
I know, big move.
Give kudos to your parents for them being so willing and understanding of you got 8 kids and they're wanting to jump out into the world and do some stuff. I'm going to tell you, I got a 15-year-old daughter. In 4 years, if she tells me, hey, Dad, I'm just reversing this. I want to move to Nebraska and do such and such. I'm going to cry. I'm just saying, it's hard. It's hard to do that. So big props to them for allowing you to pursue those things.
I want to shout out to supportive parents. I think when it came to that point, I feel like it's like a struggle. Like it's like, what they call it, like the flesh and the spirit. You just kind of, it's a struggle and it's a tuggle and you can't quite figure it out. And I came home one day and I sat my parents were already in the living room just chilling and I just kind of sat down and I said, hey, I think, like literally, it was just like a spur of the moment, like, hey, next week.
Wow.
I really would like to, like this is the timeline that I see myself. I want to be there. And they were very, very, very supportive. And I'm very thankful that they allowed me to, and they helped get me here. And then I made it.
Going back to your siblings for a minute, did any of them have that same adventure bug where they just spurred out into the world somewhere?
Not many of them moved out of state.
Okay.
I had one that traveled for school and then, came back, but that was her journey. And like I said, the support of our family was still there. Job, even when it comes to working, like it was like, hey, I want to do this, go for it. And I'm really glad that we had that support.
So moving down here, okay, so you come down, you go to school. How long are you in school for?
For about a year. A year. And I decided that my major was business administration, and I knew that I eventually wanted to go to school. Once I started the classes, I was like, okay, I want to actually be in, here come the numbers, like accounting. And I was like, okay. And so I just paused there and stayed for about a year.
So understanding where winter came from, what put some of the building blocks in place, some of the paths you started to take to kind of develop who you were going to become, understanding that the meat of this subject is about mentorship and how you connect with essentially strangers to become a huge part of those people's lives.
Yeah.
During these moments when you're going to school and you're down here by yourself, what kind of social skills was that putting in place? Because for you to be able to, I say you, but this is for anyone really, if you want to connect with somebody that you don't know and you've never met and pour your heart and soul into them, that takes a certain type of approach and mentality. So what could you attribute to those times, being able to build those moments to lead you down the path eventually of what we're going to be talking about here?
You just got to be able to just have discernment too, and not be afraid to have relationships or friendship with people, connecting, and seeking out those connections and just go from there. I met a lot of people when it comes to church and just people I met in the community that really guided me into the right places. If it didn't work, hey, that was my journey. That was that season. And whether it was successful and had to go another route. So I'm really thankful that I was still able to kind of seek out into the community and then find people that were really, helped me, learn my ground in this direction.
That's a beautiful thing. So what you end up having to do, and I'm speaking from personal experience, but I think this is something that is pretty common. You got to allow yourself to be a little bit vulnerable. You got to put yourself out there. And in the end, you got to be honest and true. And whenever you are authentic to other people, they will buy into who you are and what you're about. And so for you getting involved, and I was curious about some of that, and you brought that to light, that you were involved in church. And so then that obviously opens up some doors to be able to be a part of other people's lives. And then, of course, you were talking about coaches earlier being a big influence. Myself, I take that very serious. One of the things about being an influence or a mentor or a coach or whatever that position is that you take on in leadership, you have to understand and realize your actions are being watched and your actions are being felt. And if we're not conscious of that, we can mislead somebody. And that is detrimental. You never want to be that person. You want to be the person that hopefully helps mold an individual's mindset to something that is positive, that they can be better than themselves. The bottom line is so often people are not able to grow because they don't see the value in themselves. And so that's where mentorship starts to come into play, is where you're able to instill in someone else the value you see in them. And then all of a sudden their eyes will open and they'll be like, oh, maybe it is possible. As a coach, this came to light all the time. You see players and they don't really see themselves as being a pitcher or a catcher or whatever. And you're like, no, I think you've got the skill set. And you start working with them and then they start to develop that. Well, that's life. And you're putting life skills into folks. So all of these experiences that you're going through, all this transformation that Winter is having, as you're going from one place to the next, you're trying things, you're learning about yourself, you're adjusting off of that. At what point is it that you start to decide, I'm going to become more involved in community? I want to be a part of an organization that puts me in place where I can actually use my experiences, because it is our experiences that help develop who we become. But then you get to share that with someone else and it helps them become the person that they were meant to be. So at what age or what point was it where that moment started to turn for you?
Well, I always knew since I would say, a young girl, even in being really active, involved in my churches that I had been a part of growing up, I always was very connected with like my peers. And then from there, the younger generation, whether it be helping them with homework or just, helping out with the church functions, and even at school, just being really involved with the after school clubs, the things that helped me build community. And then from there, I always knew I needed, to be in some type of leadership or even be, try to be a teacher. Those things, I'm like, okay, what can I do to make that positive impact? Because, life is going to happen.
Oh, yes.
And, I'm not, perfect and no, what is I'm trying to say?
Ain't no way, no how any of us perfect.
None of that.
They but one of them.
And so, and so I knew that at that pivotal point in my life, because it got dark for a little bit.
Okay.
And so I was like, okay, what can I do? How can I take back control? What can I always say? I always dreamed of making that positive impact. So let me, continue. Let me turn it over.
Intentionality.
Turn it around, because when it gets dark like that, you don't have to stay there. And if those goals don't, if you have goals for yourself, you don't have to disappear because life is not going the way that you thought it was going to be. So I'm okay. I took back that control and I was like, okay, let me start being more intentional, positive, attitude around the people that, the people that I'm around, whether it be in work, church. And then from there, I started to volunteer my time. And like I said, I always knew it since I was a child that, okay, I want to mentor. I want to, help someone else have a positive impact on life or have them see a different point of view. Because like I said, I'm a creative person. And sometimes people think that creatives, why do you want to be an artist? Why do you want to paint? That's not a career. That's not life. But it's a different point of view. And that's why I'm excited that, even with my mentees now, I got one who's an artist. She builds things, she can create, she sculpts. So it's like, wow, but she's freedom in that. And then from there, it's like different. It's hard to explain. It's, from that point of view, but I just wanted to make sure that's always been my goal, is just to make a positive impact and to show others how they can be a positive impact too.
I've got to unpack a few things. You said some amazing things. You asked us before, you said, well, what are we going to ask? Well, I've got a pretty blank page, and then I'm like, I don't even know yet. Because here's the thing. I want it to be organic. I want our conversation. I have an idea of what direction I want to go and what the story is going to be about, but I got to hear from the person, right? So whenever I do my interviews, I just really want to find out what makes them tick, what brought them to the place where they're at, how they got through some of the problems maybe they had, if they had problems. But in the end, it's about how are you sharing that moment now? Because I think, to me, Motivate with Coach Camp, and the with being the so important part of that title being that we together, our stories combined, whoever that is in front of you or that is working with you, that is going through the journey of life, when we use our strengths and weaknesses together, we're always going to be stronger. We're always going to be better. So I'm going to unpack a few things if I may. So here's some things that I heard you say. So when you were going through some tough times, you had to make a decision if you were going to stay that path or change. I got to tell you something. That is worth every bit of gold you could ever find on earth right there. People, if you are hearing that, it is a decision you have to make. Life happens. It's not always fair. It's not like a bad thing will happen to only bad people. Well, I say bad people, but people making bad decisions. You may be making all the right decisions. You may be doing everything that you can know to do and things still not go the way you needed them to go. And you can sit back and feel like a victim and give up. Or you can make a decision. You're going to forge forward and you're going to be a better person. You're going to keep working hard. But here's the turning point, and this is the thing. This is power. This is power, is when you decide to instill that in other people. You said, and this is what I hear, that you wanted to have an impact in other people's lives. You didn't have to be perfect. You didn't have to be riding the horse. You could have been knocked off 20 times, but you like, you know what? I'm going to start sharing with other people and help them be better versions of themselves. See, we owe it to ourselves to work hard to be the best person we can be. You should work hard. And when you get accomplishments, that's fine. The key, I think, to me anyways, I think the key is when we're successful is to not put ourselves on a pedestal and look down and say, ha, look what I did. It's to work hard to be great at something, but to share that with others so they too can be great and give them hope that that can happen for them. I always take it very serious. Whenever I do something, I want to do my best job. I don't do it for the recognition, but when the recognition comes, I don't shy from it because I realize other people are paying attention and somebody else out there is seeing that moment that may not have seen it. And that might inspire them to do something. So there used to be a mindset that I just did stuff I wanted to be in the background, but I understood that there is a value there for other people seeing your success, because that will inspire them, but that's the key to it, right? So you want to turn around and share. That's what you were doing before you were even successful at something, it sounds like. You don't have to share the dark times if you don't want to, but I do want people to know that it doesn't matter where you come from, what you do, things will come your way. And that dark time doesn't have to be the same for everybody. So here it is, Winter. You have gone through some stuff. You have started to pour back into other folks. You started to help folks. You wanted to be a leader. And that was another thing, too, about leadership. People always say, are they born or can they be made? I think it's a decision. You make a decision. And leadership is not a title. It's a decision. What do you want to do? So when you make this decision, how do you come about the Hope Center?
So for the Hope Center, I believe it was I heard about it, before I ever attended an event. And at that time I was working, so weekends weren't always the best for me. And so I'm like, oh, I really would love to go. And then one day they were like, hey, there's still time. We're still here. Just swing by. I'm like, okay, I'm not really, doing anything. Let me just, let me go. And then I went. It was at a church. It was in South Haven. It was at a church, and I was like, okay, and met with some of the children that were attending that day. We played games. So I was like, okay, this is pretty nice. Met Mr. Stacy. I just started, just connecting with the people that were there, and then I think a few weeks went by. Not too many weeks, but like 2 or 3 weeks went by, and then they had another one. I was like, I'll go again, and it was rotating, and I thought it was really, really cool, and it's just connected, and everything just felt natural. It was real calm, and I was like, wow. And I was just so touched, and I was like, I'll keep on coming, I don't mind. And from there it was just I haven't stopped attending since.
Just kept on growing.
The invite was just there. I was like, okay. And it was just the night. It was really, I can't explain. It was a really beautiful, the politest invite ever. It's like, hey, and if anybody know Mr. Stacy, how he is, he's so welcoming and so nice. And I was like, okay. And from there, it's just every event is just open. It's welcoming. It's inviting, and that's why I think that's why God led me there, because I wanted to be in a welcoming, open environment.
Yeah. So I was curious about how you got involved or how you became to know about the organization. just to give you a little bit of backstory about Stacy Dodd to my listeners, I know you probably know, but to my listeners, him and Mr. McKinney, Kenny McKinney, is that right? Kenny? Is it Kenny or Kenneth? Kenneth McKinney. Kenneth. I always call him Kenny. He doesn't go by Kenny. So it's like Kenneth. Sorry about that. Kenneth McKinney. They came to know each other by happenstance. Stacy's looking to start something for the community. Mr. McKinney had been trying to do something for the community. They came together, didn't know each other, and they were like, let's go. They took the first step. And that is the thing here that I want other people to feel is that if you don't know where to start, but you have an idea, a passion, a love, a commitment to something, start somewhere. Just take the first step. And that's what they did. And it's been growing ever since. Yes. And so you become aware of this. And much to what I'm trying to describe here is you just show up. You don't have any expectations. Yeah. You don't know what to know. You don't know what's going on really. Just you're like, oh, it sounds good. All right, I'll go try it out. You show up, which is the story of a lot of your life that we've already developed. And you start to connect. And if you would have never went, you would have never known the connection you could have felt and what that is going to mean to you. So here it is. You start to become a part of the program. And when was the first, or do you remember how long ago it was that you got your first mentee?
Oh, let me see. I would say it was a solid 3 years ago because I was attending, the event. And I remember my first mentee, Mackenzie, she was there first. And then what I always did was just make sure I talked to each child, no matter if it was a large or a small number. I made sure I, spoke to everyone and had my, divided time towards each individual. And then from there, it started off with her, and then she was like, hey, can I bring one of my friends from school? I'm like, yeah, sure, tell them to come on. And then she brought her best friend, and then best friend turned out to be a twin. And I'm like, okay, this is awesome.
So it's her twin?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah. So with her, it started off with just that one about 3 years ago. And then a few months after that, the other two, the one sister showed up. And then a few months after that, her twin started to attend. So, and then we just kind of just became our own little family, and it was really, really, really cool. I think how that happened. And then, like I said, I always connected with the other mentees there, made sure, even though I was assigned to mine, that I still, spoke to all of the children because they were all really.
They're all great.
Really
and there's one you can't not talk to, and that's called Kyle. That man is the mayor of the Hope Society.
The mayor.
You're not escaping his conversation. I love that kid. So you start out, and what does it mean to become a mentor of the kids? So these kids come from all over, schools from all around, mostly DeSoto County, but it doesn't have to be DeSoto County, obviously. So they come to the Hope Center events, and the event may be, we have leadership conferences where different speakers will come. We have events like going bowling or going skating, roller skating. There are things that we will get together and do, or just, pizza party or something. Go to the VR virtual reality thing.
Yeah.
I can't play those games. It makes me nauseous. But but the point is that you just get the group of kids together and let them have fun. And then the different influences, the different leaders will be there and they speak to them. Yeah. So what does it mean as a mentor? What is it your job, or what do you do just to let people know what that even means to be a part of the program, but then to be a mentor to specific kids, because you were assigned specific kids. They believe in the one-on-one mentorship.
Yeah, got to. So I feel like it's more that word volunteer. You're volunteering. You're committing your time to an organization, a community of young people. You're teaching them just that impact that I want to make. This is my time to learn them, and then hear about their life experiences, and offer that advice. They don't have to take it, but it's there. And I feel like that's one thing that's really important when it comes to being a mentor, offering the right advice, that connection, and making sure that time when you're utilizing it is for for the better.
So I want to hit back on some things. This is the circle back parts. So just talking about the idea that you are being intentional about your actions, you are being focused on being the right message to these kids, which is what you need to be, obviously, if you're going to be an influence. But that also makes you better, because that's keeping you in check. You know how easy it is for us to all go through the motions of life and not really think about it. And then we make bad choices because it feels like there's no accountability. it is a full circle. Whenever you put yourself in those positions to be able to be an influence and positive mentorship to another person, that also means that you have to pay attention to yourself. You got to check yourself at the door, be honest, and be vulnerable. And that's sometimes easier said than done.
Yeah.
You know, so here it is. You take on one, and then it grows to two, and now you have three. So you have three girls, and you've been mentoring them for a while. Can you share some things you've done with them, or some memories or some moments that you've had?
Let's see. I always call them my girls. We have our group chat, so I check in. I always make sure it's important to check in with them. Hey, how's school going? They'll invite me to like track meets, things at their school that they got going on, homework. You know, if I can do a tutoring session with them, I've always made time for that. So that's a few things that we've done. And then every time that we have a Hope Center event, whether it be over, like lunch or one of the activities that's set, we always just take our time to really just, be an open book. Hey, how was your week? Being very organic and just real with each other. I'm always joking and, and telling. I think that's one thing that they've gravitated towards. They know I'm really just an open book. I want them to be comfortable and open enough to share with me about what they're going through. And I think that's really helped us really navigate and me help them.
How old are your girls?
They are now 16.
Okay.
Yep.
And that's a very pivotal age.
Yeah.
I got a 15-year-old daughter. Let me tell you about it.
Yeah.
That's a tough age. One thing I wrote down here, parents everywhere across the world right now are about to be nodding their heads on this and be like, yep. As a parent, my wife, we could tell our daughter the best advice in the world. 100% true. There's not another human being that would disagree with that advice. In my daughter's head, it's like, I ain't listening to that. But you, Miss Winter, could come to my daughter. She ain't never met you. You tell her the exact same words. Don't even change the phrase. And she'll be like, oh, that's really good advice. So to the point of mentoring and being somebody to someone new, the advice that you're able to give is going to be received a lot of times a lot better than if it was coming from the authority figure. Now, there's a lot of psychology that could go into that, and people can figure it out for themselves later. I don't know why it is we can't always listen to our parents. But the truth of the matter, and I'm not saying all don't, but a lot of kids don't, right? So when you have somebody in that your child's life that is having positive influence, man, what a blessing.
Yeah.
What a blessing. Kids everywhere have an influence every day of their life. It's called a phone. They're looking at images, seeing videos, almost 24/7. I mean, it never goes away. When I was growing up, I don't know how far removed we are. I'm not going to ask that question. I got beat up once. So I don't know how far removed we are, but the TV was very limited when I was growing up.
Yeah.
There was no such thing as a cell phone. So what you realize is, man, kids today, not that it's never not been important, but is it so important now? They're getting a voice. They're getting some kind of example being set for them that shows them that it's not everything you see on a telephone. These images and these videos and stuff, they will glorify stuff that is not great. Obviously, I'm speaking truth. Everybody knows this. So for you to be able to step up and be a part of that for these three girls, the impact. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Folks, it's not just the kids. It's their friends.
Yeah.
Who do you think a person listens to the most? Their friend. More often than not. You're doing things with these girls. They're sharing that with their friends. I can assure you. People don't always think about that butterfly effect, but that's exactly what's happening. And then you think move down the road. Okay, now those three girls, they're going to have families one day, have kids. They're going to realize the value that you put into them. I'm saying this is going to step forward. Now they're doing that for the next generation, and that those three people you impacted, they may end up impacting thousands over the course of time.
Yeah.
So you never should diminish the moments. And like you said, all you're doing is sitting down connecting. You're asking them a handful of questions about their day. You're listening. They feel like they're not being judged. I get it too. A kid can't always just open up to their parents because they feel like there's this repercussion situation depending on what the situation might be. So it's so valuable.
Yeah,
it's so valuable. I really wanted to put a big star on the need for mentorship and how to be involved in programs.
Absolutely.
And it just started with one step. So do you have other people now that have come on board since you started?
Like students?
Like our students or friends, have people inquired? I mean, like obviously you're connected to community, so do people like, hey, winner? So what did you and the girls do this past weekend or something?
I share it often. Like anytime that there is an event coming up, I'm always letting my coworkers know, like or maybe at church, I'm just letting them know about like this opportunity is available if their children were ever interested. This is a great time to just, community to fellowship, with other, peers and other young people. And it's a time for the children to, like I said, to be heard, for other mentors and people they may potentially look up to learn them one another. So I'm always letting, extending the invite as it was extended to me. I believe in that, just saying, because there's room. And
you never know. You never know what seed you plant today will grow into something amazing years from now. You just really don't know. Yeah. I don't know if you knew the story. I'll just share this real quick because it's all part of the program here. Do you know how me and Stacey and I got together for the first time? No. So it's funny. When we started this podcast, I had no idea what it was going to look like, sound like. I had no idea. Yeah. My guy, Derek, he's like, I have an idea. Just come to the studio. I got a microphone. We're going to make this thing work. And I started asking people about their story, if they wanted to come on, share some stuff. Well, Derek, had met Stacey at his ribbon cutting. This is just the domino effect, and this just all falls in line exactly with what we're talking about. So because Derek had opened up a studio and had a ribbon cutting, and Stacey showed up to his ribbon cutting, he met Stacey, and he tells me about him. He goes, "You got to meet this guy. He's amazing. He's a part of this. He's a part of that. He's doing these big things." I said, "Oh, sounds like somebody I'd love to meet." I sent him a message on Facebook. We had never met each other in our lives. He agrees to come on the podcast. Sits in the chair, probably one of these chairs right now, just in a different studio. And it was that moment I realized this guy's going to be doing things for other people that are bigger, way bigger than himself. Yeah. And if there's ever an opportunity, I want to be a part of that, because that is the kind of mission I want to be on. Yeah. I want to leave a legacy behind that inspires others to do that for the next generation.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's what he was doing. And we connected.
Yeah.
And so now here it is, full circle again, more people from the Hope Center growing all the time and having a huge impact on kids' lives.
Yeah, a big impact. I think one of the very first moments that I really, just understood, I guess, the big impacts, because Stacey, him and my husband, they had knew each other from business ventures they had on, and that invite. They were like, hey, and I think my husband had attended before I did. He was like, y'all should really, you should really come. I was like, okay. And same thing with Stacey, like, hey, we're still here. And I was like, okay. So from there, just like, wow. And it's been just
that's another piece of the puzzle that I didn't know about, right? So I know that you just got married.
Yeah.
You're saying husband like y'all were married then. Y'all weren't married back then, so right? So
at that time.
But isn't that, I didn't realize. So then he had been coming.
Yeah, he had been a part, had him and Stacey did some mentoring and, business things together. That? And it just kind of fell in line, and it's been...
and just recently you got married.
Yeah.
Took on Miss Wallace. What was your maiden name? Harold?
Yeah.
Okay. And so now you're WW.
Yeah.
Winter Wallace. So regular old person out there, just got married, got these 3 girls. What would you say? What advice would you give to a person right now that's been on the fence about being a part of something? It doesn't have to be the Hope Center, but obviously it's a great place to go to. But how do they get involved? What would you say to an individual if they've been thinking about stepping out and they've just had trepidation because they don't feel like they're worthy or thare ready, or they think they don't have enough money, which is something I've heard before. It's like it doesn't take any money to offer time.
You just have to, we're going to go back to that word decision. You have to make a decision, and you have to be willing. Not all your work is going to go notice at first, but sometimes you don't do it for the attention. If it's from your heart and it's pure, the recognition and all those other things will fall in line. Your reward is from your work. So you have to be, make that decision. Okay, if there's something that you could do with your time, what would it be? If you want to, like I said, make that positive impact, or just become a better individual. And sometimes that being a better you is discovering yourself while helping others. There's my mentees have kind of just opened, it's like a window, like, wow. And I've learned so much about myself, as a mentor, and being a better leader just by meeting those young people. They're so just so knowledgeable, they're so great, they're lovable, they're fun, and to being able to have that connection and be willing to make those connections. You have to put yourself out there and be humble. And like I said, and mentorship is really wonderful. I feel like we all need some type of mentorship, life coaching somewhere in life. And
yeah, absolutely. They say metal sharpens metal, iron sharpens iron. So a person that feels like they're squared away, if they think there's nothing else they can learn, they've hit a dead end in their world. There's so much more to learn. And being around positive-minded people, too, that are trying to have an impact, that helps keep you focused and motivated a lot of times. I know that is true for me anyways. I want to mention their names, Mackenzie, Ava, and Karis. Great job, ladies. I've met you a few times, obviously, at the Hope Center stuff. And I hope that one day you guys are going to be sitting in the seat that she's in talking about the mentees that you guys are participating in, which, by the way, teenagers can be a mentee to a younger person.
Absolutely.
So it's not like you have to wait until you're a certain age. You can start today having that positive impact on people's lives. And it is the decision. And I like the fact that you pointed out how being a part of their life and helping them become better versions of themselves, they're also giving that back to you, helping you become a better person as well. I think that is so true. I can't tell you how many moments in a classroom my students have helped me become a better person from all areas of life, from every walk of life. I won't go down a long rabbit hole on this, but I will share this. It is easy for us to assume stuff in life. We can see a situation and think we got it figured out, and we don't know any of the details. And that is what my students put on a big fat right in front of my face. Don't think you understand my story unless you've gotten to know me. Right. When I had a girl that was really good at the beginning of the class and started struggling halfway through, I thought she was becoming lazy or just didn't care, didn't have the same ideas or passion. And I saw she had the talent. She was very smart. And so I was doing the coach thing. What do coaches do? Coaches sometimes get fiery and they're like, you got to do this.
You got to do it.
And you got to, sometimes you got to be the Nick Saban or the Bobby Knight. But sometimes you also need to understand your player. And come to find out, she never told me this, Miss Winter. I'm sharing this because this is all real stuff. This is real life things. Turned out her house had burned down. She was living in her car and still wanted to finish the semester and didn't want to not. And I'm like, all right. Yes.
Right. The Kleenex.
I got that one. I know. I'm like, from now on. And from that day forward, I have never, and then there's been those students that did become lazy and stuff. Yes, that happens. But I make sure that I know their story because I want to understand why are you going through the problems you're going through, because a person, you just don't always know. You don't always know, and you need to be there for them. And that's what mentorship is all about, and helping them walk through this crazy world that we're in sometimes. So is there anything you would want to say for the end? I love your story. I know that people are going to get a lot out of it. I hope they come and become a part of mentorship to other folks.
Absolutely. Do your research. There's organizations out there that exist that are welcoming, that you can be a part of, and just don't be afraid to take that next step and just go for it. I'm very thankful for the Hope Center because, like I said, if I had not just went, I would never, became a mentor and started, planting that seed and being the better mentor that I knew I could be and still growing. And I never would have met like so many, good people along the way.
You may not even got married.
Yeah,
who knows?
Right.
You would have never met your Mr. Wallace.
Yeah, so like there's so many things, and like I said, you just never know that there's communities. It's community for a reason. It's there, so you gotta be out there.
When you make your purpose in life a passion, everything comes together for you. Yes. Well, thank you so much for coming out on this day that is sketch. Hopefully we can get home before all the stuff. I hear the thunder over top, right? So thank you so much, and wish you the best. We're going to be hanging out together. Yeah. Hope Center ain't going away. We got all kind of events coming up in 2025.
Right.
So to my listeners, I want to thank you guys for tuning in, being a great support group yourselves all over the world. I do appreciate it. Continue to send those great messages in. I'm going to ask you to go to my website, motivatewithcoachcamp.com. Subscribe to my YouTube. And until next time, Coach Camp out.
I love the chase and the hunt, and I set the pace when I'm running. I always take what I want and I always give it 100. Don't need a bank, no I'm funded. Play the game like it's nothing. I'm always thankful for something. Don't take for granted, stay humble. Now wake up! It's time to look at the enemy. Look in the mirror if he is no friend to me. It's not working out, maybe it's the chemistry. It's